If your diesel has ever gone into limp mode, shown a strange orange light on the dash, or suddenly started drinking way more fuel than usual, there's a good chance the part to blame is sitting right underneath your car, glowing red hot, and most drivers have absolutely no idea what it actually does. It's called the Diesel Particulate Filter, or DPF, and today we're going to properly open this thing up. Not just what it is, but exactly how it works inside your engine bay, why it fails, how people accidentally destroy them without even knowing it, how to actually clean one, and how to avoid ever having a problem with it in the first place. This applies to pretty much every modern diesel on the road. So whether you're driving a Mercedes, a BMW, a Volkswagen, a Ford, or anything else with a diesel badge on the back, stick around, because this is one of the most misunderstood parts in the entire car. Let's start with why this part exists at all. Diesel engines burn fuel differently to petrol engines. Instead of a spark igniting a fuel and air mixture, diesel relies on compression to ignite the fuel, and that combustion process is naturally a bit messier. It produces soot, which is basically tiny particles of unburned carbon. Back in the day, that soot just went straight out the exhaust pipe and into the air. You'll have seen old diesel trucks or buses that puff out black smoke when they accelerate. That black smoke is soot, and it's genuinely harmful stuff to breathe in, small enough to get deep into your lungs. As emissions regulations got stricter through the 2000s, and especially from around €5 onwards in Europe, manufacturers needed a way to physically trap that soot before it left the car. That's the entire job of the DPF. It's a filter sitting in your exhaust system whose only purpose is to catch that soot before it hits the atmosphere. Now let's actually go into the engine bay and follow the exhaust path, because understanding where the DPF sits tells you a lot about how it behaves. Exhaust gases leave the engine through the exhaust manifold, right at the cylinder head. From there, they usually pass through the turbocharger, because the exhaust gas is what spins the turbo before continuing on. After the turbo, the gases pass through what's called the diesel oxidation catalyst, or DOC, which is a separate component that helps convert some harmful gases like carbon monoxide into less harmful ones. And it also plays a role in raising exhaust temperature later on, which becomes important. Right after the DOC, or sometimes built into the same housing as one unit, you'll find the DPF itself. Physically, if you could cut a DPF in half, you'd see something that looks a bit like a ceramic honeycomb, similar to a catalytic converter, but built completely differently on the inside. A catalytic converter has channels that go straight through, open at both ends, coated in precious metals that chemically convert gases as they pass through. A DPF looks similar from the outside, but the channels are alternately blocked. Imagine a stack of drinking straws where every other straw is sealed at one end, and the straws next to it are sealed at the opposite end. Exhaust gas enters an open channel, but because that channel is blocked further down, the gas is forced sideways through the porous ceramic wall into the neighboring channel, which is open at the other end, and out it goes. As the gas is forced through that porous wall, the soot particles are simply too big to pass through, so they get physically trapped on the wall surface, while the gas itself continues on through the exhaust and out the tailpipe. That's the entire trapping mechanism. It's not chemical, it's physical filtration, forcing gas through a wall and catching the solid particles behind. Over time, obviously that soot builds up inside the filter. If it just kept building up forever, two things would happen. First, exhaust flow would get more and more restricted, which chokes the engine, kills performance, and increases fuel consumption, because the engine is working harder to push exhaust out. Second, eventually the filter would completely block, and the car simply wouldn't run. So manufacturers built in a process to burn that soot off periodically, and this is called regeneration. Regeneration is where most of the confusion and most of the problems actually come from. So let's go through it properly. There are technically two types of regeneration, passive and active. Passive regeneration happens automatically, without the driver or the car's computer doing anything special. If you're driving at a decent speed for a sustained period, like on a motorway or a fast open road, exhaust gas temperatures naturally climb high enough, generally somewhere around 400 to 500 degrees Celsius, that the trapped soot just burns off on its own as a slow, continuous process. This is the best and healthiest way for a DPF to clean itself, and it's exactly why long-distance diesel drivers, taxi drivers, delivery drivers tend to almost never have DPF problems. Their car sees that sustained heat regularly. Active regeneration is different. This is when the engine's computer detects, usually through a soot load sensor or by calculating based on mileage and driving conditions, that the filter has built up enough soot that it needs a proper clean, and passive regeneration alone isn't cutting it. When this happens, the car actively intervenes. It might inject extra fuel later in the combustion cycle, close a valve to build back pressure, adjust the turbo, and generally do whatever it takes to spike exhaust temperature up to somewhere around 500 to 600 degrees Celsius, hot enough to burn off the accumulated soot, essentially incinerating it into a much smaller amount of ash.
This process typically takes somewhere between 10 and 25 minutes, and here's the critical part that causes 90% of DPF failures in the real world. Active regeneration needs sustained engine load and speed to complete properly. If you're doing short journeys, stop-start city driving, 5-minute trips to the shop and back, the car will start active regeneration. Sense the load has dropped because you've stopped or slowed down. Pause it and try again next time you drive. If this keeps happening over and over without ever completing a full cycle, soot keeps building up faster than it's being burned off, and eventually you get a partially or fully blocked filter. That's the single most common cause of DPF failure on the road today, and it has nothing to do with a faulty part. It's simply a mismatch between how the car was designed to be driven and how it's actually being used.
This is why DPF problems are so heavily associated with people who bought a diesel for fuel economy, but only ever do short urban trips. It's genuinely one of the worst use cases for a diesel car with a DPF. The engine essentially needs regular hard runs to stay healthy, and if it never gets them, the filter slowly clogs. So how do you actually know if your DPF is struggling? There are a few warning signs to watch for. The most obvious is a dashboard warning light, often looking like a rectangle with dots inside it, sometimes glowing orange to indicate the filter needs attention soon, or flashing alongside the check engine light if it's more serious. You might also notice a genuine drop in performance, the car feeling sluggish or gutless, particularly noticeable under acceleration. Fuel economy often gets noticeably worse because the engine is working against increased exhaust back pressure and may also be doing frequent unsuccessful regeneration attempts, which burns extra fuel. You might notice the engine idling at a higher RPM than normal for a period after starting, which is sometimes the car attempting a regeneration cycle. In more serious cases, the car will enter limp mode, deliberately restricting power and revs to protect the engine and turbo from potential damage caused by excessive back pressure, and you'll need to get it looked at before continuing to drive normally. One thing that trips a lot of people up is the difference between the DPF light and a regeneration in progress. Many modern diesels will show a temporary light or indicator when a regeneration is actively happening, essentially telling you, hey, I'm doing a clean cycle right now, please keep driving at a steady speed rather than stopping. If you see this and immediately pull over and turn the engine off, you interrupt the regeneration partway through, which is actually worse than not doing one at all, because now you've got a partially burned mix of soot and ash sitting in there. If you ever get that specific indicator, the right move is to keep driving normally, ideally holding a higher speed, like on a dual carriageway or motorway, for 15 to 20 minutes if you safely can, to let it finish the cycle uninterrupted. Now let's talk about what actually kills a DPF permanently, beyond just soot buildup from short trips. Using the wrong engine oil is a big one that people don't think about. Diesel engines with a DPF generally need what's called low SAPS oil, which stands for low sulfated ash, phosphorus, and sulfur. Regular oil, or the wrong spec oil, contains higher levels of these additives, and when the engine burns a small amount of oil during normal operation, which every engine does to some degree, those ash particles end up in the exhaust stream. Unlike soot, ash cannot be burned off during regeneration. It's a solid mineral residue that just sits there and slowly permanently reduces the DPF's capacity over the life of the car. this is a completely avoidable problem. Always use the manufacturer-specified low SAPS oil in a DPF-equipped diesel. Ignoring the warning light is another big killer. A lot of drivers see the DPF light. It doesn't stop the car from driving, so they just keep going about their normal short-trip driving for weeks or months. Every day that passes with a partially blocked filter and continued short journeys makes the problem worse and pushes the soot closer to a point where it can no longer be cleaned through normal driving or even a forced regeneration because the filter is just too full. Related to that, some drivers develop the habit of getting a DPF warning and then deliberately going for one long motorway blast to sort it out, which is actually the correct response if caught early, but if the light has been ignored for a long time and the filter is already heavily loaded, sometimes a single long run isn't enough anymore, and you need an actual forced regeneration done with diagnostic equipment or physical cleaning. Let's talk about actually cleaning a DPF, because there are a few different levels depending on how far gone it is. The first and cheapest option, if caught early, is simply what we already covered: a sustained motorway run to trigger and complete a passive or active regeneration naturally. This costs nothing but fuel and time. If that's not enough, the next step is a forced regeneration, done by a mechanic using diagnostic software plugged into the car's OBD port. This manually commands the engine to run the active regeneration process on the ramp, with the car stationary but the engine running at controlled higher revs for the full cycle, letting it complete properly under supervision without the interruptions of real-world driving. This is a common, relatively inexpensive service many garages offer specifically for early-stage DPF warning lights. If the filter is more heavily blocked and a forced regen either won't run or doesn't fully clear it, the next option is a physical DPF clean.
This usually means removing the DPF entirely from the car and either using a specialized cleaning machine that flushes it with a cleaning solution and compressed air to physically dislodge built-up soot and some of the ash, or in more thorough cases, a bake and blast type cleaning method where the filter is heated to burn off residual soot and then blasted clean. This gets sent off to specialist companies in a lot of cases, and it can often bring a badly clogged filter back to something close to working condition again. Though it won't remove ash that's chemically bonded or deeply embedded, and it won't fix a filter with actual cracks or physical damage. If the DPF is cracked, melted internally from excessive heat, or so heavily ash-loaded that cleaning doesn't restore acceptable flow, replacement is the final option. And these are not cheap parts, often costing anywhere from several hundred to well over £1,000 or dollars depending on the vehicle, sometimes significantly more on larger vehicles or premium brands. Now, an important thing I have to mention, because you'll definitely have heard of it. Some people choose to physically remove or gut their DPF entirely, and then remap the engine's software to stop it from expecting the filter to be there. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your own car, but I do want you to understand the reality of it rather than the myths. In most countries, this is illegal for cars used on public roads because it directly increases harmful particulate emissions being released into the air. Beyond the legality, it will fail an emissions test in places that check for it. It can void your insurance if discovered after an incident, since the car no longer matches its type approval. And depending on your local laws, you can face significant fines. It's genuinely not the easy fix some corners of the internet make it out to be, and the environmental impact of that soot going straight into the air, especially in built-up areas, is a real thing, not just a box-ticking exercise for governments. So let's bring this together into practical advice, because that's really what this comes down to. If you own a diesel with a DPF and you mostly do short trips around town, you are statistically the most likely person to have DPF problems, and the best thing you can do is try to get a sustained faster drive in at least once a week, ideally something like 20 minutes or more at motorway speed, to let the system do a proper passive or active regeneration. Always use the correct low SAPS oil specified by your manufacturer, never substitute it to save money because that ash damage is permanent and cumulative. Never ignore the DPF warning light. Address it within days, not months, because the earlier you catch it, the cheaper and easier the fix. Generally just a motorway run or a forced regen rather than an expensive clean or replacement. If you ever see the specific active regeneration indicator while driving, don't panic and pull over. Just keep driving steadily if it's safe to do so, and let the cycle finish. And be realistic with yourself about whether a diesel actually suits your driving pattern. If you genuinely only ever do short city trips, a petrol or hybrid may honestly serve you better and save you a lot of hassle and expense down the line. The DPF is a genuinely clever piece of engineering, quietly doing a difficult job every single time you drive, physically trapping harmful soot and then periodically cremating it using nothing but heat and clever engine management. But it only works properly when it's used the way it was designed to be used, and understanding that is the difference between a DPF lasting the life of the car or becoming an expensive repair bill within a few years. If this helped you understand what's actually happening under your car, let me know in the comments what your experience with DPFs has been. And if you want me to go deeper into forced regeneration procedures or how to read soot load data yourself, tell me down below and I'll cover it in a future video.